welcome back to An Actor's Notebook. This is Nadia. Nadia is an equity acting person, remember?
Yeah.
She's like qualified. She's got the legal
Oh my God.
that I do not have. And we met because we went to school together. She minored in opera, majored in theater performance. Yes, everyone. Woo-hoo. So today we're gonna do a little collab, a little Q&A. We're gonna talk about kind of her experiences and kind of compare. I think. Oh, also. Her Instagram is going to be at Nadia Duncan. It'll be somewhere below. I'm tagging in, and then you guys can follow her. If you wish after that, you also know that my Instagram is always going to be in the link below. So in the description box, if you guys want to follow me a little bit more. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and all that jazz. Okay, let's get started. So Nadia, tell us a little bit about like how you got your equity card.
Sure. So, if you know anything about Actors Equity, there's a few different ways to join the organization. The main two ways, there's kind of another way that's sort of an asterisk, but the main two ways are either you become an equity merit candidate, and then you accrue, I believe it's 25 weeks.
It's 25.
25 weeks. And then you would become full equity at that
25 weeks for the basis, so like in the lowest level. And then like you'll get, once you get 40 weeks, you get bumped up to another level, which means that you can, do my research. Which means that you'll get more priority on auditions. It'll be easier for you to schedule your auditions. So, but it does cost more money every time you like bunk up. But yes, so 25 weeks bottom level, 40 weeks kind of like normal, good, and then beyond that, of course, you can be like SAG or whatever. But we'll go back.
Yeah, so I was gonna say, so that is one way through EMC, and then you would be accruing weeks. Basically, that would mean that those weeks are weeks of performance at an equity theater. You can know that a theater is equity because they will say so in the contract that you were to sign, and the weeks don't have to be consecutive. If you did a show that was 2 weeks, you would get 2, and then if you a month later did a show that was 5 weeks, then you would have a total of 7. You wouldn't have the space between those two shows. It's just what you did when you were performing.
A lot of people get it that way. They'll do like a couple weeks. I have like 4 weeks or something. But like every time you can add it on, but you do have to fill out a little kind of paperwork from that person so that they can give you your points and saying yes, she did or he did this.
So that is one way. That is not the way I did it, but that is one way that you can get equity. The second way that is more kind of normal that you would see is just having what's called a must-join contract, which is what I had. So basically what happens is if you are cast in certain productions, in New York City, that would usually be Broadway or off-Broadway. In regional theaters, it really depends on the size of the theater, the location. There's different for different markets, but if you're given a must-join contract, it means that under that contract, you're actually required to be an equity member. So anybody on that contract who is not already equity is automatically going to become equity at that point. So what that meant for me is that I was cast in a show at FIAF, which is an off-Broadway house here in New York City. And I had to sign a contract saying, yes, I will become a member of Actors Equity. My initiation fee was $400 flat rate. And then at $400, I actually received my equity card, which I can actually show you because I have it right here. So I received my cute little equity card. It's like bright blue. I'm throwing down everything on the ground. So I got my cute little equity card. Here it is. So I got this after $400, and then for the next 2 years, I owe Actors Equity $1,200, payable either through working dues or directly. So I can pay them through the pay that I get from being in a show, which is your working dues, or I could also just give them a payment if I wanted to just pay them outright. So I could do either one, and then at that point, you are an equity member until you either become delinquent on your dues or change your status. You can change your status to inactive, which is for people who might be like, I'm not acting for a few years, I'm going to take a break. Or you can actually remove yourself from the union. But if you do that, you cannot rejoin unless you're given a new union contract or you accrue the weeks again.
Yeah.
So
it's basically like starting all over.
Yeah. So you really wouldn't want to do that. If you were saying like, oh, I just want to take a break, you would do inactive status for equity, and that will have no penalties. Like my mom is an equity actress, but she's inactive, so she doesn't use the card, but she still is technically a member. So it's kind of how that works. If you decide that you don't want to pay it, I know the dues are kind of expensive, so if you aren't really doing it for a while, you might.
Yeah, and also that the contract she had for like you must join, you can even get that as SAG. I had that was one of an offer that I had that I was gonna have to do for a film that I was like having callbacks or had an audition and callback for, where they were filming in Canada. It was a SAG production, and I was gonna have to. The lights just changed. And I was gonna have to.
The sun just got covered.
You're just seeing our melanin pop. Okay, anyway, I was gonna have to join SAG to do the film. But the thing about that is they pay you enough in that in the whatever your contract is, whatever in her performance or in that film, they pay you enough so that you can pay the flat rate right out.
Yeah.
So you don't really have to worry about that. And then of course your payments over time it equals out, so it's not that hard.
Yeah. One other thing, so since you brought up SAG, I'm going to say there is a third way to join equity. If you are a member of SAG or you are a member of one of the other affiliated actors unions, there's a few in Canada and a few in Europe that count. If you are a member for over a year, you can actually go to the Actors Equity office and say, I'm a member of a sister union, and you can apply that way, and you can actually become eligible for SAG or eligible for Actors Equity or vice versa, whichever one you got first. So that is another thing to keep in mind. If you've been a member of one union for a year, you can cross over without requiring a new contract from a new show or film or whatever it would be. So that's another way. Just, most people don't join that way, but if that happens to apply to you, you could also join that way.
Yeah, why not,
Yeah.
Also, you did the work. So you should get what's owed to you. Yeah, so thank you so much, Nadia.
Yeah,
that was
you're
great.
welcome.
Okay, I also wanted to talk to you about kind of like your going into audition, making the appointments as an equity.
Okay. So, when you are a full member of equity, so this doesn't apply to EMCs, but for full equity members, you have access to what's called the membership
EMC,
portal.
if you have that 25-hour, you go to EMC.
Yeah. You have access to the equity membership portal, which is basically like, think of what Backstage looks like. If you know anything about Backstage, it kind of looks the same. You can search auditions, submissions. This would only be for equity projects and also only for theater. There is nothing other than theater on this. It might be anything from tours to Broadway to regional, it's all over the country, but it's only theater.
On Actors Access?
Actors Equity.
Actors
on the
Equity,
members,
yes.
on the
Sorry,
membership
sorry,
portal.
I thought you said Actors Access.
No, yeah. On the membership portal, that is theater only because it's all equity only projects. So any project throughout the country that has had to submit to Actors Equity and say this is an equity show will have to be on the membership portal listed for their project. Even if they're not casting, the project has to be listed on there. So if you are looking through and you're seeing, okay, like I'm interested in X audition, there's a few different ways that an equity member can do that. If you are like me and you are a very planned, organized kind of person, you can actually make your own equity appointments a week in advance of the audition itself. So if the audition is next week, you would be able to make that appointment at 12 noon exactly for the following week with the corresponding day of that audition. So the way that it works, you probably want to go on it at like 11:55 because the website gets a ton of traffic right at that time because there's a ton of people trying to make self-submission requests at the same time. So you would log on, you would select whatever audition that you wanted to do, and then you'd be able to make your appointment completely online. They would have your name and your equity ID on file, and then when you show up on the day of the audition, you show up at that time. They get you in, they get you out at that exact time. Guaranteed, you will not be there longer than 20 minutes if you do have an equity appointment already scheduled. If However, you see an audition and you're like, oh, that's tomorrow, and you didn't know anything about that audition, so you wouldn't be able to make an appointment. You can do what's called the equity alternate list. So basically on the day of the audition, you show up at the audition venue, wherever that is, whether it's Pearl Studios, Ripley, at the Irish Equity Building, wherever it's going to be. You show up on that day.
This is if you're in New York.
Yes, if you're in New York only. The procedures for EPAs are different in different regions. Some regions have like different rules, but that could see that actually on the website. They'll break down what their specific rules are for specific regions. You go to the equity monitor, which is the person who is running the audition. You tell them, hi, I'm a member. You have to physically have your card with you. They will not confirm that you're a member if you don't physically have the card on your person and show it to them. And you say, I'd like to be seen for this audition. So they put you on what's called the equity alternate list. What happens there is that when they are calling everyone who did reserve appointments, they will have spaces in every appointment group that they're going to fill with equity alternates first. So there's a tiering system, and I'm sure you probably talked to them about like EPAs and how that works. So there's a tiering system
You should watch my YouTube.
Okay, well, I'm just making sure. There's a tiering system where equity alternates are the highest priority of alternates. So there's also the EMC list. There's also the non-equity list as well. Equity alternates are always going to be before there's people.
They're even before the EMC. So even if an EMC is coming in and they had like their card or whatever, it's called.
Yeah, they have a card.
They have a card. It just is not as stable.
Yeah, it's white and it's like and
it's
a paper
flimsy,
card.
It's like
it's not plastic.
They're almost there. But she would even get ahead of those people. So that is what you're working for, people. Because that is the greatest part. And also, she doesn't have an agent, which we'll get to in another question. But just putting that out there.
Yes. So the scenario would be, so if there's people waiting for the audition, there's going to be the people who are equity and who have reserved appointments, or if they have an agent and they also have an appointment, that could also be why you had an appointment, but either way, people who have appointments. Then equity alternates are next. It would be every single person on that equity alternate list before anybody on EMC is called, before anybody on non-equity is called. So if the list of equity alternates is 5 people and the list of EMCs is 20 people, they're going to see those 5 people first, but if a 6th person comes in, they're going to see that 6th person before they even see the first person on EMC. So that's kind of how the ranking system works. They have to get through both lists to call off of non-equity. So they also usually tend to let EMC and non-equity go at 2 p.m. at the lunch break, typically, unless there's like nobody there at the end that equity call. But if there's a lot of actors there, they tend to let people go at 2 p.m.
In non-union people, if you get let go at 2 p.m., there's a very good chance that you will not be seen at all. Still go back, but I'm just letting you know, like, especially because I've told you to be there hours before it even starts, to just put your name on the list, have your snack, stay in the room, because if you leave the room and they actually call you up, you get X'd out. Remember that? So if you're there that far ahead of time, the first like little round of 12 people or 7 people, depending on the production, the first round of 7 people or 12 people that are going to be non-union that will be going upstairs to wait. You go upstairs and you wait some more. So you go upstairs and you sit in the hallway and you wait for more for them to get done with the EMCs and the equities, and then they'll have you in. So if they're not doing that, then they know they have too many equities, too many equity alternates, too many walk-ins to see non-union. So there's just a very good chance that you won't be seen. Still go, because you never know. I'm not telling you that that you definitely won't be seen, but I'm just letting you know to be prepared for that. So maybe you can sign up for another audition just in case and move over there once that one's over, so that you're not completely like unproductive that day. But we have talked about, I know we did SAG and equity. We keep saying these things, and she said equity only shows your theaters, because equity is really theater. SAG is like your film and television. So I just wanted to make that difference for you guys. You can be an equity member and not have reached SAG status and still be fine. just because maybe you haven't done any short films, feature films, TV shows, web series, all of that can qualify under SAG. You can get SAG for any of that. Or if you're doing something that's even like a student-run film, but they're trying to get SAG, what's it called?
Eligibility.
Eligibility, yeah.
And I can talk about that too.
Yeah, so if you're doing that, well, she's.
I'm SAG eligible.
Wait, I have two more questions.
Yeah.
But if you're doing that, and sometimes like me, although I love my theater, for me sometimes it's easier to get roles in short films, that stuff, just because of my age. But that makes me closer to SAG. So it's it really doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
But those are just the terms I wanted to kind of explain to you the difference, because I know we didn't do that yet. But anyway, so next question. Sorry.
It's okay.
But were you finished?
Let me see. I was talking about the audition process. I think the one thing I was gonna say was just like, at the end of the day, like, once you make your way into that room, regardless of whether you even win for 5 minutes or 5 hours, it's the same. It's literally the same. So that's the one thing that, like, I know as an equity member, it is much easier to get into a room, and I've gotten into many, many rooms so far, but it doesn't mean anything after that. Really, it doesn't. What means something to them is your relationship with them, your connection to them, and how well you perform. So that was really, I think I didn't have anything else. Unless you wanted to talk about SAG, and I was going to bring something up, but if you still wanted to.
Oh, well, this can transition, because I was going to let you tell the people what you're doing right now.
Oh, yeah.
I know you're doing 2 things, right? Well, that's what I know you're doing. You might be doing more than 2, but from her post on Instagram, she's doing 2 things right now.
Yeah.
That you just started. You're singing and go ahead.
Yeah. So one of the things I was doing is a web series. It's called Miss Education. It's through Block Exchange Films. They've done a couple of short films and series. They're on Vimeo, YouTube, IMDb. You can look stuff up if you wanted to watch some of their prior things. Nothing with me in it is released yet, because we actually just started filming 2 weeks ago, so won't be anything yet for you to watch, but I will definitely post on all of my social media as soon as I actually have some clips to send, and people can watch if they're interested. But that is the project that made me SAG eligible. And joining SAG is actually a little bit easier than equity. Basically, all you have to do, which is not really that hard, is be under SAG contract for 3 shooting days. Those shooting days, just like equity, don't have to be consecutive. It could be 1 and then 1 3 months later, and then 1. It doesn't have to be.
It does
day
cost
after day
more.
After day. It costs a lot more. So that's
so,
that's what we're getting. That's what we're getting at. So
that's where they trick you.
So you think, and you can even become SAG eligible as a background actor, which a lot of people don't know. So you don't even really have to be cast as I am the star of this movie. You can literally be someone who walks by in Starbucks in a Marvel movie and be SAG after that. But SAG is much more expensive. It's about $3,000 for initiation fee, and it doesn't have the delayed payment period that Actors Equity has. So for equity, you can become a full member without having actually paid the full initiation fee. Whereas with SAG, you're not a full member till you pay it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the thing that makes it a little more. I mean, the turnaround is that being in film and commercials and series pays a lot more money than theater, unfortunately. So that's supposed to
make your money how you're making money.
That's supposed to
do your creative
balance
stuff
it out,
on the
yeah.
side.
Because you can do 1 commercial and make your gun.
Yeah.
So
and I mean,
that's kind of.
You know what? This is getting kind of long, so we're gonna do a part 2.
Yeah.
So this will be part 1. We'll finish it up. I know. We'll finish it up, and then part 2 will give you a little bit more information, and then you'll follow Nadia on her Instagram. So guys, don't forget to subscribe. We're gonna start part 2 really soon. So thank you guys so much, and don't forget to follow her on Instagram.
Thank you. I'm so happy to talk and collab with my best friend.
She's lying.
No.
She just told me last night I wasn't her best friend.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
So bye guys. Thank you so much.